Tonight on Metro News. Frustration grows over plans for the historic High Court dais. A local church tackles the housing crisis. And we look at a new way to capture changing landscapes over time. Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to your local news bulletin brought to you by the students of the New Zealand Broadcasting School.
First up tonight, there's a battle brewing over the future of the historic wooden dais in the High Court. Lawyers are angry there's no place for it in the new Justice Precinct and have started a petition to ensure it's not forgotten. Samantha Ollie reports.
It's 150 years old, one of only 4 in New Zealand, and the longest serving fixture at Christchurch High Court 1. But the Ministry of Justice says this Cody bench and stand has done its dash and won't be moved to the new Justice Precinct. In a statement, a spokesperson told Metro News.
We recognise the historic importance of the dais to Christchurch's legal profession. However, because of ceiling heights and other elements of the design, the dais cannot be incorporated into any of the precinct's courtrooms.
But the local legal community isn't giving up on it. A petition led by Nigel Hampton QC now has over 1,100 signatures, including all of Christchurch's Queen's Council.
From what I was told in the initial planning stages, those that were going to be the most often users of the courts, namely the judiciary and the lawyers, were not consulted about the future of the dais.
The dais has been relocated once before and accidentally lost for a decade after that move. Hampton says Justice Minister Amy Adams is refusing to disclose plans for the dais this time round, but has said it's too intimidating for the new precinct.
I do not understand why a dignified piece, a handsome piece, should be seen as intimidating. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to have something that carries with it not only heritage but respect.
The legal community can now only hope for a resolution before the precinct's finished next year. Samantha Ollie, Metro News.
The extent of New Zealand's housing crisis has been well publicised, but what about the people who are working to turn it around? Logan Church meets a group keen to do their bit.
Morning. Sunday morning at the Oxford Terrace Baptist Church. Even though the congregation survived the quakes, their church didn't. The 150-year-old building collapsed in 2011, and now they're about to rebuild, but they're doing things slightly differently.
New Zealand clearly has a housing crisis, and so we're going to build some houses.
Along with a new church, the $8.5 million project plans to include 10 low-cost units. Even though the government is promising to tackle the housing issue, Chris Chamberlain doesn't think it's enough.
I don't think we should wait for the government to do it. The government clearly doesn't care.
Paul Longsdale disagrees, saying the government is trying. He's involved with the City Council housing program.
There are vulnerable people out there, and post the earthquake we saw that vulnerability increase.
Although Council has over 2,000 social housing units, it welcomes other initiatives.
And I think it shows the empathetic nature of the aspects of Christchurch that actually try and fill those needs. It's fantastic.
But the cost of housing is also a national issue.
Take Auckland as an example. Their booming population is driving up house prices, but in Christchurch we have a different problem. 5 years ago we lost thousands of houses, quite literally overnight, because of the quakes. And we haven't yet replaced them all.
All going to plan, the church wants the units ready to occupy by mid-2018.
We want to make use of this opportunity to put our money where our mouth is, I suppose.
And long term, they'd like to provide even more housing. Logan Church, Metro News.
Later in the show, we'll be speaking to Chris Chamberlain for more on the issue.
Now, have you ever thought about making your home more energy efficient or building a new one where sustainability is the main feature? Henry Rounce has been looking at our building codes with this in mind and joins us now live. Henry.
Now, since the earthquakes, there's been a big movement towards sustainability, and housing is no exception. Now, what that means is there's growing interest in creating energy-efficient homes, but it's not always easy, and it can be expensive.
Housing movement that's got people talking. This tour, organised to show industry the best in sustainable building. Christchurch has 2 homes rated 10 out of 10 on the Independent Homestar Guide, which measures sustainability and efficiency. This owner says his home showcases what's possible.
It's a project that shows everything that's good, net zero energy, so basically you don't get a power bill, and that's a great way forward, isn't it?
Obviously, not all homes are like this. The current building code outlines the minimum requirements for building a new house, but the council's advisor in the area would like to see more.
We're really keen to get people to understand that the building code is not enough. It's good, but actually you can have a much better home for very little cost more.
So how much more would it be? A 2013 report outlined the practical cost of making a 4-bedroom Christchurch house more sustainable. Initially, the extra outlay's small, to reach a 5 or 6 star rating up to $4,000. But it soon adds up. Achieving a 7-star house could pile on $27,000. Forcing change to minimum standards would take a change in building code. It was last altered for sustainable ideas 6 years ago, with increased insulation requirements. Council's building administrator says it's time for another change.
Yeah, probably could do with being updated to include more sustainable means of construction.
That might be welcomed by health bosses also at this sustainable open home, the DHB keen to see better insulated, healthier homes.
We do see a huge health impact. We want the housing to be warm and dry, so the new housing is setting the way.
While the support's there, it may be some time before more plans like this can get off the ground.
Now, anything to do with the building code comes under the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. They say the minimum standards, which cover things such as humidity, are sufficient, but they do encourage the people to do more, things such as extra insulation or building homes to take advantage of the sun.
Thanks, Henry. Imagine spending 30 years helping disabled people fulfil their potential. Artist Bon Suter is doing exactly that, and she does it through sculpture. Ashley Yates has her story.
It'll have a really nice shadow for
Bon Suter's one lady who goes above and beyond. She teaches students with a range of disabilities how to sculpt out of omaru stone.
I love working with people that, don't have the same opportunities as the rest of us, and I love to see how well they can come along.
For 24 years, she shared a special relationship with one particular student, Donald Gibson.
When he first came to me, he was a really kind of a lost soul, really, because he's an artist inside himself, a frustrated artist.
Donald was diagnosed with Usher syndrome, meaning he is blind and deaf.
To do what he does without being able to see a single thing, or with feel only, I've never known anyone else that can do what he can do.
The garden has become a sanctuary, but last year fire destroyed some of the trees and plants.
Devastating, yep. There's tears being shed.
Since then, they've replanted, re-landscaped.
For us, and people that live in Brighton, it's an asset that you see people coming down just to have a look and a wander.
This art tutor loves nothing more than seeing students achieve something they never thought possible.
She means a choice tutor, someone to seek guidance from.
Just relaxing and good to be able to chip away at a bit of stone.
I've seen that art has a massive healing influence on many people. People that have a passion for art and have a passion for this kind of work. Not everybody does.
Bon's future isn't set in stone, but her sculptures will remain long after she puts down her tools. Ashley Yates, Metro News.
Coming up on Metro News, we look at an initiative capturing landscapes over time, and is your child full of worry? Funding steps up for a stress-relieving book. Welcome back. Earlier in the show, we looked at a local church building low-cost accommodation in response to the housing crisis.
Chris Chamberlain joins us in the studio to talk more about this with Logan Church.
Thanks, Alicia. Thank you, Chris, for joining us in the studio today. So, firstly, in the story we saw before, you said that the government doesn't care. Why do you say that?
It's pretty obvious that the government doesn't really care about this because the housing crisis is not new. It's been going on for a very, very long time. Years and years and years this has been building up. And if the government really cared, they would have done something previously. And in fact, the Prime Minister promised to do something about it quite a while ago. There's been numerous suggestions that something will be done, but nothing's been done. Nothing substantial has been done.
Okay, so the promises the government made in the budget, like hundreds of $1 million to help combat this issue, 258 million in social housing, is that not enough?
It's a nice nod in the right direction, but again, this has been building up for such a long time. If the government was serious, they'd put some serious money into it. And I would suspect if you went to middle New Zealand, most of us would say, we don't need a $20 tax cut, thank you, next year. We need housing being dealt with. We need a country where people who are missing out on housing are being cared for. I don't want $20 tax back. I want the government to take a hard look at this problem and deal with it.
So then why should organisations such as churches get involved?
Well, I think we need to put our money where our mouth is. One of the roles of, for instance, the church is to critique. The Old Testament prophets, they point the finger when they see things that aren't right, and they critique what goes on. So I think it's valid for the church to speak up and to critique when we are not happy about things that are going on that are wrong. So that's what we're doing.
So briefly, where is the money for this project coming from?
For our project, the money will come from mortgages and internal fundraising. So I mean, it's all very well to complain, but we are putting our money where our mouth is to try and participate in helping alleviate this problem.
So I suppose just finally then, if you could speak to Nick Smith directly now, what would you say to him?
I would ask him about what role compassion plays in his life and in his role as a government minister, because any decent leader needs compassion.
Isn't that something lacking at the moment?
I would say that there's not a lot of compassion going on.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris, so much. And back to you, Alicia and Edward.
Thanks, Logan. There's a new way to capture what's happening to our changing environment by combining shared photos in a time-lapse. Ben Mining-Thompson checks it out.
A gondola ride on the Port Hills. Picture opportunities everywhere. It's also a great spot to take a photo for website Snapshot Me, which aims to capture our changing landscape in time-lapse photos. It started as a sustainability project for 2 local students.
So they can come back and watch that site, how is it changing over time, and generate just more awareness around it and really establishing a kind of a deeper connection with the place.
The photos need to be framed up perfectly each time.
And we're asking people to place their camera in the middle of those guidelines, take a photo, and email that photo.
Visitors send their pictures into a website where they're matched together like this sequence of the Mueller Glacier. There are 7 Snapshot Me stands, 3 in the Aoraki Mount Cook National Park and 4 here across Christchurch City, like this one at the Christchurch Gondola overlooking Banks Peninsula. These Hooker Valley shots started coming in early this year. So far they show seasonal change, but it's hoped the site will lead to greater awareness on climate change.
It's a way to really take a fraction of someone's time to actually see a vast amount of change and actually make a difference.
And New Zealand's conservation leaders are right behind it.
Over time that's going to build a picture of environmental change, of potentially of climate change, and that's getting people to take action for that in a really simple and easy way.
It's estimated the stunning Tasman Glacier is receding at a rate of 200 metres a year. Snapshot Me could help show this change.
That's a trend that's going to continue, and it's getting faster.
The plan is to expand the number of locations around the country to increase environmental awareness at more of New Zealand's scenic destinations. Ben Mining-Thompson, Metro News.
Keeping fit in your autumn years might be a struggle for some, but health experts say if you keep active, there are plenty of benefits. Katie Stephen has been checking out some of the options and joins us now live. Katie.
We all know the phrase, use it or lose it, and Sport Canterbury say they want everyone to be more active, and this includes the elderly, especially when they retire, because physical activity keeps them fit and strong and socialising with other people.
Doubles, singles and lots of love. Age is no barrier for these women taking part in weekly tennis.
But as you get older, it probably is a little bit harder to stay active. I'm lucky I'm
pretty healthy and fit, so and I guess being active has helped me stay healthy and fit.
Statistics from the most recent New Zealand Health Survey in 2014 found that almost half of all adults are physically active for at least 30 minutes a day. But when you break that down into age brackets, those who are 65 or older are less likely to be active than those who are under 65. Sport Canterbury partner with community groups to tailor programs for the elderly to try and keep those numbers up.
At the YMCA they have a whole range of different activities, and they've got circuit classes, they've got exercise to music, they've got Zumba classes.
They say there are lots of good reasons to stay fit.
For some people it might be very much that physical side, they're wanting to gain strength or maybe balance, it might be increasing their fitness so they can keep up with their grandkids.
For many at this Bishopdale club, tennis ticks all the boxes.
And keeps you socially active as well, and it's a good sport for that, and it also is a sport that you can play when you're older.
The supportive environment also helps players keep coming back.
Yes, because they're always saying, come on Pam, you can do it.
These golden oldies will keep going for as long as they can serve. Fitness and fun hand in hand. So Sport Canterbury have some advice for people who might be a little bit nervous about giving it a go. They meet with people, look at what they like, what suits them and what's realistic. The main thing they say is start off doing easy things, and once you get the hang of it, maybe try something a little bit more adventurous.
Thanks, Katie.
Coming up on Metro News, a stress relief book gets funding, worry bug takes off, and a young athlete gears up to make waves at the World Jet Ski Championships. Welcome back. 6 years after the earthquakes, experts say kids have been affected as well. Now there's a book to help them cope, and Elizabeth White has the story.
A bug invasion's taking over this Lincoln Early Childhood Centre. It's the latest initiative to help children recover from post-quake stress.
How we can make our house safe so we don't worry about the earthquakes.
Maya and the Worry Bug was written to encourage kids to open up and overcome anxiety. Teachers here say it helps.
Some children sort of didn't quite know how to verbalise that concept, so we've just been discussing what worry is, and then from there we've been able to unpack some more things.
The writer, psychologist and mum Julie Burgess Manning was inspired to write the book when she saw anxiety affecting children around her after the earthquakes.
This was a very abnormal event and events that happened, and that we need to go back and get rid of, shed some of that anxiety. So really that's our aim, is to get rid of those behaviours that come from the anxiety.
Maya and the Worry Bug was given out to Canterbury primary schools last year, but new funding from the Red Cross Canterbury Earthquake Appeal has meant the books are now available to every 4-year-old across the region. Here at Lincoln, the book prompts some fun activities. It's also helping these 4-year-olds cope with worries about heading to school.
I've had feedback from the parents as well, that the children are enjoying reading Maya and the Worry Bug.
So I guess one thing we learn from this is that no matter what's bugging our children, there's a way to get it all out. Elizabeth White, Metro News.
Two Christchurch brothers are on their way to international motocross stardom. I went along to see them in action. Not your usual workout attire, but Angus and Hamish McDonald are geared up to fundraise for their dream. The more reps they do, the more funds they receive, and it's all in pursuit to win the Romaniacs Extreme Enduro event. They'll be racing against the world's best on rugged Romanian mountains. Just a bike, GPS, and 4 days to ride over 600k. But first, it's taking pedal power for the boys to make the July trip. And this is just the start of their day.
We have to go pack up and then go to Cheviot to race across country, so it's going to be challenging.
No, this is when they're coming back round.
The South Island Championships, the perfect training ground for Romania. It's a brutal and unforgiving sport, but their family's right behind them, Dad an enduro veteran.
I used to sort of
follow me around on the trail rides and things behind me like little penguins, but now they're long gone. I'm following them.
Out of 60 riders today, the pair took top placings.
Hope to come this obviously first, but anything can happen. Yeah, but it's 5 days. A lot can happen in 5 days, but hopefully come out on top.
And they're hoping to do the same in Romania.
We're just in little old New Zealand, but hopefully we can get a good result in Europe and see where it goes from there.
While Romania beckons, the ultimate aim is to go pro. Alicia Foon, Metro News.
Ashley's here now with the weather, and how's it looking for the weekend?
Well, it was a wet day today for much of the country with scattered showers and heavy rain. However, for Christchurch it was nothing but sunny skies and an unseasonably high temperature of 19 degrees. The regions are set for a mainly fine day tomorrow with southwesterly winds starting Christchurch at 6, but will manage to get up to 15 throughout the day. The sun will also be shining down south, with temperatures above 12, Timaru reaching a high of 16. However, don't get too excited. You're going to have a chilly morning with a low of just 4 to get you going. It's a nice day to end the week actually. Fine weather tomorrow expected for Canterbury. Oxford starting the day at a low of 7 and Kaikoura the pick of the bunch to reach a high of 16. It'll be a lazy day for most of Canterbury on Sunday, however, with showers across the regions. This morning's warm start was the perfect example of how we're experiencing the warmest winter on record, and it's set to continue with a sunny week for most. Frosty mornings to start, but however temperatures will be breaking double figures. Hope you all have a good weekend. Back to Edward and Alicia.
Thanks, Ashley. A Christchurch athlete's gearing up to race in the World Jet Ski Championships.
But getting there hasn't been a smooth ride. Ella Prendergast finds out why.
Corbin Farnley's dream of competing in the World Jet Ski Champs starts here.
I'm really excited but nervous.
Soon he'll become the youngest New Zealander to make it a reality.
Okay, ready? Yep.
But it hasn't been easy. Maritime safety rules here prohibit anyone under 15 from using a jet ski, and Corbin's only 11.
But he actually had to qualify in New Zealand, but we never had a race for juniors.
So rules had to be bent. His dad, working with maritime safety and sports officials, set up a special class for riders under 12. It's the only place in New Zealand to allow the change. Corbin picked up the sport quickly.
When you get to do it and you keep doing it, it's like get easier and easier. Train real hard but do like some tricks after and stuff.
But enough talk, it's practice time. All the hard work, worth it in the end.
This is a first for New Zealand. They've never had 10-year-olds racing jet skis ever. So this was quite an unknown territory.
Unknown territory for now, but they're expecting more kids to jump on board.
The future of the sport is in the juniors, because as you get older, you're sort of not quite as good as you used to be. So the juniors go good.
And Corbin plans to go even better in Arizona in October. Ella Prendergast, Metro News.
And with that, we end our final show. Thank you for tuning in.
To catch up with the latest Cantabrian news throughout the year, head to our website, metronews.co.nz. I'm Edward O'Driscoll.
And I'm Alicia Foon.
Good night.